Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Canyon. Welcome back to another installment of a, God, what is this? We did a build-along series. It's the 10 Pro, and the 10 Pro, by virtue of, for whatever reason, being firmly and thoroughly embraced by the aftermarket, the 10 Pro has received a Canyon change. Because we can. When we're doing this versus that types of operations, I have said that there are advantages to the VRD Carbon and there are advantages to the 10 Pro. One of the leading advantages to the 10 Pro is that aforementioned aftermarket support. For the purposes of this Canyon change, not quite as severe as what went into the second most recent Canyon change installment on another vehicle. Not quite as involved in terms of a Canyon change, but the Canyon changes, of course, you make as many changes as you want, but if you make them all at once, you have the delightful thing where you can't tell what worked and what didn't, and you can't tell where the advantages are coming from. You know, the old rule of thumb is always make one change at a time. No, what's the fun in that? Let's just blunder into it. So, carbon rails, replacing the aluminum rails. I've got an aluminum rail right here. The weight savings is not dramatic. It's about half. You drop, so it's basically both of those weigh as much as one of these. Hey, removing sprung weight is always welcome, particularly if $20.99. $20.99 for carbon rails that fit exactly like stock. That tells you, and he is sitting higher. Any little amount of spring, and well, okay. So we had all of the plastics. I didn't organize my pile very well. So we had the front thing, the thing that gave him his Rainbird name, where the spur gear was rubbing right here. We've changed that. We changed out the motor mount for a Mias alloy motor mount, $12.99, $12.99. And because it's not injection molded, for those not aware, it's a keyed shape. These two little guys right here key into these holes. The fitment is ridiculous. Like, you have to almost bang it on with a hammer. This piece went click. And because we're replacing, although, I mean, I don't think we need all the bracing in the front with this anyway. This is one of those quality of life changes. And I think it worked, because this boy's stealthy. Absolutely stealthy. I had seen too late some other stuff that I want to add, because Amazon is coming hard and correct with the upgrade parts. So $20.99 for frame rails, $12.99 for a motor mount. I omitted the rear brace in favor of a single standoff. I omitted this because I have no intention of ever running a winch. I omitted that for a single standoff because I only have two standoffs of that width. I think they're 78mm wide. So yeah, one little rod of aluminum definitely weighs less than this. This almost negated the weight loss of the rails, because this does indeed weigh more than the plastic piece. And then, oh, bearing the lead, RC AWD brass knuckles. They are either 112 or 116 grams a piece. I can't remember, but they are reasonably heavy. And then we swapped out pretty much every drive it has done so far has been on S4 comp pins. And we swapped those out for XHX S5 pins, which are the cheatiest of cheat codes. And I well and truly mean it. I mean, the cheatiest of cheat codes. We could probably go all the way up. It's ridiculous. Someone in a comment referring to the 10 Pro had said, well, what if you put it on like just a normal tire to see what you'll get? Well, at some point I'm sure that we will, but why not when you can? And again, going into the $21, $13, $27, $26.99. Same exact inserts, same exact wheels. I just unmounted the S4s, mounted up the S5s, and at this point, you know, doing the cross comparison is not doing the cross comparison is impossible, right? This thing and the VRD are definitely aimed at the same segment. The VRD costs a lot more money to upgrade. The VRD is, we're starting to get things like $30 knuckle weights for Vanquish portals, which really helps. We don't have to buy the $90 Vanquish weights. These were about like $39, something like that. And you can get cheaper. I just really wanted heavy. So my hope was we removed sprung weight and replaced that sprung weight with unsprung weight. Try to get the CG lower, try to get the weight further forward, because for whatever reason, the 10 Pro, and the reason is, the whatever reason, is a gearbox that is almost as long as my hand. From FMM to the rear output, the gearbox is almost 7 inches long. It's ridiculous and it's obscene. I want to replace it with a Creeper T. Retain this front motor mount. Just put a Creeper T in there with a shaft going to it, and then drop this from switchable 040 to just, I want to try a fixed 30, and then I will probably go into an 827 in here to get down to about 20, because 20 to 25% does indeed seem to be the sweet spot. The 0 is too little and the 40 is too much for most situations. And the weight drop. The 1 pound springs will no longer be up to the task. They'll be far too stiff. So, that's the idea here. Grand total, what am I at? 40, 53, like, call it 75 bucks. We put 75 bucks of options parts on here, of which, you know, I'm not 100% sure any of them are necessary. But who doesn't like the look of carbon, particularly when you get rails for $20? And of course, because they are quite literally, somebody took one of these and just made it carbon. Every hole is identical. They line up absolutely perfectly. Nothing moves around. That's what we want, right? That's what we want. And I think, do I think that we're in for a net sum good? Do I think there will be any potentially negative outcomes for changing rails, motor mount, adding knuckle weights, and going to this? No, I don't. I think this is pretty much right. Realistically, let's be honest. The only need of these, the only one that isn't a want, is the tires. The S5 is better than the S4, and honestly, he'd be absolutely fine on the S4s. So, this is 75 bucks worth of, oh, I forgot the tires. This is 100 bucks worth of wants, because we wanted to, didn't need to, and still, we haven't put anything on the 10 Pro that isn't just outright economical. Fusion SE, Radiolink radio, it's just the servo, just that half-height RS 400, which we already had, so is it powerful enough? Maybe. Oh, yeah, I half mentioned, you can get the bracket, you can get the front bracket that holds the servo in brass. I am interested in that. You can also get brass covers. You can get this. You can get these tubes in brass. I don't want to add too much weight. I want to add as little weight as possible. And before we get into that, I want to remove weight. I don't know. You might know, but I don't know. I don't know. Now, see, for those unaware, the bottom, the skid, is actually the bottom of the gearbox. So I can't just drill some holes in that thing. I mean, I guess I could use spacers. I mean, I want to replace that entire gearbox with this, which is going to drop a inarguably significant amount of weight. Like we will my conservative guess is it will pull 12 ounces off the weight of this vehicle. And I don't know why I didn't think spacers. Aluminum plate with the conventional 4-bolt gearbox mount. Put 4 spacers, mount that, get that thing in there. It'll mount right about like that. And we'll see what this thing does. I want to see this thing as a flyweight. I want to see without the wheels, because we're running silicones, so those are fairly heavy. And I think he's got brass rings in the front. Yes, he does. He has brass rings in the front. Wheel tire combo. We're going to get in that 800 to 900 gram range, no matter what. I'd like to see this thing proper light. This guy might be the suitable test horse for, they're right up here, for the carbon wheels, which are very light. But the problem with the carbon wheels is the expense. Not the expense of the carbon wheels. It's that you have to make up this weight like on the axle. So we can get this thing. Could we get a 10 Pro to 5 pounds? Maybe. Maybe. And you'll come along with it. So here is the first Canyon change. Most of it not necessary, but if we're not here to do the things that we want, then what? Come on. Why are we here? So I think we're in for a net sum good. I don't think we've made any particular change that is going to be negative to the performance of the vehicle. But rather than speculate, let's go find out. So let's see what we've got. I mean, that's we're in big right now. We're still in big. It's 40%. And honestly, it looks like they're fighting. Looks like the front is fighting the rear end more than so we just, like I say, 0 isn't enough and 40 is too much. I thought for sure that was just going to assault there. Get the body out of the slider already. Do I feel a feel a noticeable change in the weight? Not particularly. I hate that body. I'm still on 0 here. I mean, I understand. They're definitely aiming towards a particular segment, as was mentioned before. But I would trade that switchable overdrive for dig in an absolute instant. Yeah, we're seeing, or I'm seeing, absolutely what I would anticipate from switching from S4s to S5s. It's better. It's not mind-bendingly better. It doesn't just, you're not just like, whoa. Now, when you go from, like, you know, if you were driving on the VXT2s on a stance and you put this on, you put XHX pins on there, you'd be like, whoa. Yeah, I don't know. Batteries come loose again. Yeah, battery's really loose, touching the front tire. I don't know. It just... There we go. I managed to get the battery out. It's fine. So, while I wouldn't go so far as to say this is one of those familiarity breeds contempt sort of situations, 0's not enough and 40's too much. There's points that you get to in the 10 Pro. And I don't think it's anything that isn't fixable. I don't think it's anything that's not addressable. Come on. Yeah, it's 40. 40 is too much. It will help the turn in though. Yeah, nice through there. Then we'll go down to 0. Body just won't stay in the little holes. A lot of shudder. You should not see that kind of shudder on a pin tire. I think it's got it. I think it's got it. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, a lot smoother through here on the 0. And that's the thing. I think there's a number somewhere nestled comfortably in between the 0 and the 40 that is the number. The turning circle is not great on 0. We're on 0 right here. Yeah, just... I don't... Hey! Alright. I don't know how we got into that situation. I think so much better right through there on 0 than it is on 40. But the whole time I'm just like, a stance is what, 23 or 24, 26, whatever it is. That just feels better. So the more I drive it, the more I'm getting comfortable with the idea of getting that gearbox out of there. I think, and this is kind of the case with many vehicles, with many full kits and RTRs alike, is that the more you take off, the more you simplify it, the better it gets. I think the 10 Pro is unnecessarily complicated because of that gearbox. I don't think that gearbox is doing it any favors, and I don't think it's doing anything that a 3-gear wouldn't do. Yeah, the versatility of the switchable overdrive. The amount of times that it's usable because the split is so big. I was just talking to somebody and said they built the gearbox up, like they didn't have this gearbox, they didn't adapt it from something else. They built it from this. I don't have a problem with switchable, okay? A Phoenix says switchable from 6.5 to 46. So again, a 40% jump. I don't think that's the optimal setup either. How about, hear me out, how about small 12 and it switches up to 25 or maybe 30. We'll go with size 30. How about 12 to 30, an 18% difference. Those are both usable numbers. 6.5 and 0 are both usable on some level, but not always optimal. And 40 and 46.5 are even more than that in terms of not always, like there's no versatility there. Why can't we just have versatility? Because I think this is the biggest part for me. We've got 0-40 on the switchable overdrive or underdrive, whichever it might be. And I often forget which one I'm in. This is 0. Now on 0, I should definitely be able to pull over that. On a regular tire, much less a pin tire. A little more wheel speed got us, okay? Then, yeah, just absolutely shoots the groove there. I am now. I said before that I couldn't tell, that I didn't know. I am definitely feeling the weight reduction. Small as it may be, and or the change in fore to aft balance, the change in sprung versus unsprung ratio. So the carbon rails dropped us, I want to say it was like 40 grams, ounce and a half. And then we picked up about 230 on the front axle. 230. It's good all around. And this whole time we've been on 0. So now let's see 40. Yeah, see, it's kind of the same. It's vanilla bean and French vanilla. More anger in the hop, more anger in the bounce. Like, we'll go back to 0. That's 0. That's 40. Should not have an issue getting over that. That's not a mechanical there. Can this swing back? This is 40. Is it going to pull that back? So easy on 0. Just doesn't have the gusto. I've switched back to 0. Here's the deal. I mean, the more I go, the more I'm just possessed by the thought that I would much prefer just a fixed amount of underdrive. Give me a number, just a fixed number. I think 30 is too high. I think we want 20 to 25%. But I don't know. The biggest hang up for me on the Pro is that Pro gearbox. It is unnecessarily convoluted and complicated, and I don't really think it brings anything to the table. If there was an LCXU in here, the base camp gearbox, I think it would be an improvement across the board. Across the board. I don't have the insight. So sometimes I don't understand what the motivation was when they made their decisions. I guess. I don't see the versatility of being able to switch into 40% dig, 4/10 dig. It still has that hyper-stable feel. Can feel a little bit of the weight reduction. I think some of that hyper-stable feel will start to come away as we take more and more weight off, and we get that ratio between sprung and unsprung further apart. With the almost all plastic axles, and the only weight that we've added is 2 knuckle weights. I think the sprung to unsprung is still not great. We're probably between 25 and 30% unsprung. Yeah, I'm developing a sense for when we're in no underdrive, because the turning circle is pretty poor. Like, I don't feel like I should get caught right there. It is feeling a little bit more nimble. I would like to feel it even more nimble. What are we on, 40? That's not great. That's not great. Try 0 here. Oh, nope. Nope. Zero was not the key right there. Yeah, the turning circle is, I don't know if it's 40% bigger on 0, but it's bigger. It's definitely bigger. But right here, the 0, just so much better. So much better. Yeah, it's not even close. So those moments where the 40% is usable are few and far between. And the moments where you just want no split, you just want 50-50, that's not all the time either. It's my biggest problem with this vehicle, and it will be addressed. Yeah, again, really just planted down right there. Still okay. I'm gonna approach this. I'm gonna go straight at this on 0. I want to see if the front end will stay down. It could not do this before the weights were added. And this is not a situation where I think 40% underdrive is going to help. Although, maybe it will help keep that weight down in the nose. It does keep the front end pushed down a lot more. Oh, there it is. Yeah, so going up, the 0 is much better. On this side, going up through the center, the 40 is better. Coming down, the 40 is just going to be better all the way around because it's 4/10 dig. There's something about it that is lacking. I'm operating from a point of assumption where I think it's that gearbox. There's something about it that I don't like. Beyond the whole 0-40. Like what the orientation and size of the gearbox does to the weight distribution, I don't like. Again, we try not to move from our spot here. How's the 40 on the XHX pin gonna do? This thing will do some silly stuff. The experience of piloting a VRD or something VRD adjacent, it's more, I don't want to say it's more of a driver's vehicle. I don't think that's an accurate descriptor. I feel it's more like the Pro runs in slow motion. It doesn't feel as responsive. And it on a 1200 is faster than a VRD on an 1800 portal reduction. So in terms of tires we've tested over time, in terms of just the sheer amount of drive that you can get out of it, the XHX pin is way up there near the top. I notice some small difference on this, having gone from the S4 pin to the S5 XHX pin. But I feel like there's something. Is it Geo? Is it shock setup? There's something that everything at this point, based on what this rig is and the way it's set up, we should be in easy mode right now. But it doesn't feel like easy mode. It feels like a lot of times the front axle and the rear axle are fighting against each other. To make a contemporary reference inside the video, this is why when people are excited to see a straight axle VRD, I'm like, yeah, but why? Yeah, but why? You lose ground clearance and you lose gear reduction, so you lose mechanical advantage in exchange for CG. Well, I don't think the CG is the end all and the be all. I think the distribution of sprung weight and unsprung weight is what is important. Even more important than front to rear weight bias. I think sprung to unsprung is the most important ratio. So I don't outwardly see any advantage, and this guy is living proof. The straight axle is what's holding him back. The gearbox is what's holding him back to start, and then the straight axles finish the job. Why does he feel so stable? Because he has a low CG. But the CG is low not because of the choice or orientation of parts. It's because the axles are straight. They're not portals. So it automatically drops it that X number of millimeters lower. But as we saw, if you've seen those installments, the VRD has a lower CG, despite being on portals, because it gets there by the allocation of weight and the distribution of parts. The VFD gearbox puts the weight lower than this gearbox, like significantly. The top of this motor is like, 15 millimeters higher? It's just high weight. Could they have gotten the motor lower? I think so, yeah. That gearbox, again, we come back around. What is that gearbox giving us other than fits? Make sure we're in 40 for the descent here. I will say, on this tire, on the way this rig is laid out, you've seen me do it numerous times now. The slow power back onto the wheels, like no whip. Whip. Why are you saying it like that? Whip. He doesn't need that big burst of power. He does everything real slow. I want more. It's not about needs, it's about wants. And I want more. So, if nothing else, I think this fiasco has shown me that we're going to throw some money at it. We're going to put a little bit more brass on the front axle, and we're going to go to a really lightweight wheel, which means I'm going to have to obtain 3D printed inserts for the XHX pins, even if I got to order them from Europe. And we're going to pull that gearbox out, and we're going to replace it with a Creeper T. And we're going to get this guy lightweight, and we're going to see if we can take some of that stability out. I want him to be more rowdy. Like, get rambunctious. It's too stable, and it takes away from the overall feel of it. But here's the deal. I don't think there's anything, barring the gearbox, that's explicitly wrong with the Geo, the platform, any of that. It's just the gearbox is a giant 7-inch long question mark in the middle of the chassis. And we're going to address it. Did the changes, did we arrive at net sum good? I think the pendulum swung too far to one side and just illuminated the weaknesses. It showed us holes in the performance profile. Sometimes it do be like that. So these are those moments. I need an intern. I need somebody else. I can just hand them the controller and be like, drive this and give me your thoughts. Because I don't know. I'm too deep inside of it at this point. Am I objective? I don't know. Is there such a thing as objectivity? We have to compare it to other things. That's the thing. If I'm just looking at the merit of it on its own, well, then it should be giving me more. It's not giving me enough. I want more. And we will see together as a collective if we can get there. We will see if I can indeed get more out of this. I think so. I think our outlook is reasonably good. So, I thank you for joining me for this one, and I invite you to comment below. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. in between now and then, I would invite you one and all to do your very best to have a good one, everybody. We will see you next time here from the canyon. It is a wonderfully quiet morning, is it not? No helicopters. No, just like, it's so nice. It's so nice. Even if this guy didn't quite hit the high highs like I had hoped for, not bad overall. I don't think. So, let me know in the comments below. I will see you next time. Here from the canyon.